Welcome to Tashkent 2014, one of the preliminary tournaments leading up to the candidates final for the World Championship Challenger. It's in a series, a FIDE Grand Prix series. A lot of great players in here, but especially for me is my buddy Carl Nakamura is in it, and I hope Carl does well. Anyway, folks, FIDE Grand Prix Series, Tashkent 2014. Games coming up. Here are the standings after 10 rounds in the current leg of the FIDE Grand Prix from Tashkent. Andreikin from Russia in first place with 6.5. My buddy Carl Nakamura from the U.S. and Mamajerov with 6. Vache Lagrave and Jobava with 5.5. Jobava, Karyakin, and Caruana with 5 points. Yakovenko and Giri with 4.5. Kazmanjanov with 3.5, and poor Boris Gelfand last place with 3 points. Those are the standings after 10 rounds. One more round to go. Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. Another game from round 10 of the current leg of the FIDE Grand Prix Series. This one from Tashkent. It's between Giri as white and Barder Jobava as black. It's Giri is white, Jobava is black. Let's get to it. It's going to be a symmetrical English. Knight takes, pawn, knight, pawn. Interesting English though. Knight, bishop. It's kind of a weird, I'm not used to this setup in the English, but it is kind of interesting. I'm sure it's all theory, I have no doubt. F5, I like the black pawns. They control a lot of space in the center. Bishop G2, knight F6, castles, develop the other bishop, and E4. Trying to break things up a little bit, go after blacks. Center pawns, F takes, knight takes, black castles. He probably would want black to take this knight here, and after bishop takes, white has no center presence hardly at all. B3, King H8, king comes off the G8 square. Now, knight takes E4 is what the computer calls for. Then after bishop takes, queen to D7 for black, but it says king to H8. That was an interesting move. That one I'm not really sure why, to tell you the truth. Maybe I'm just not good enough to know what that means. But that's what Jobava decided. Now with Jobava, of course, you never know what he's going to do next. And that's part of the appeal of going through his games and watching this guy. And it's tough if you're his opponent. The guy's just unpredictable. Knight to C2. Bishop G4, hitting the queen. Queen comes up. I'm assuming that blocking that bishop off here, the bishop's going to go here instead. Queen to D7, and he does. Knight takes. Bishop takes. Bishop F3. Interesting. That bishop F3 move is the computer move, but H6 is the other move for the computer as well. Bishop, queen to D5 instead. Now bishop takes F3, or rook A to E1 is computer's choices. Queen to D5, very interesting. Nothing can really harass that queen right there. The knight can't come here and harass it. And this light square bishop can't. Queen to G4. Now he's threatening the bishop twice. Rook A to E1. Now that's what the computer did. It's showing the track that rook wants to go through. Queen to H5. Rook D3. Bishop takes. Queen takes. Rook F6. Bishop C1. Getting the bishop back into play. Wasn't doing much good there. Interesting would have been F4, then rook to E8. That was the computer selection. After bishop C1, rook A to F8, doubling up. Rook to D3. Now he's going after that backward D-pawn for black. Rook G6. A lot of power over on the king side there for black. Rook to D5. That's a good spot for that rook. Can't be harassed there. It's a good square. Bishop H4. course, we all see why he can't take. Because of the pin on the king. Bishop a3, ganging up on that backward d6 pawn. Bishop b7 to protect. Bishop back to c1. Queen h3. Bishop b3. Now this is one of those positions, this is where I kind of get lost. I'm about a 1550, 1580 player rated USCF, and this is where I get lost on how to formulate a plan from something like this. And this is where I really have a hard time. I struggle. I'm looking for some kind of plan for white, and I really can't see one. Queen h5, a3, rook g4. Maybe he wants to bring the other rook up. Here, maybe here. Or here to here, maybe. After this bishop moves. Queen g2. Defending. Queen e8. Other queen comes back. Knight to b4. h5. He's going to start opening up white's king side here. c5. Knight takes. Pawn takes. Queen to g6. Now that queen's back on the king side. To tell you the truth, I think that rook on d5 maybe looks out of place now. I'm not really sure. He doubles up. Now he's got triple hits on that pawn. And this is where I think black stumbles. He's really down right now, about a pawn and a quarter. But he decides to play d takes. And that, I think, was a major error on his part. Rook to f6 is more than likely a good move. And then after b5, d takes, rook. It's still not that great for black, but it's not that terrible either. But after d takes, rook takes, bishop f6, queen f3 is the computer's choice, but I like Giri's choice as well. Bishop takes c5. Now bishop takes h4. It looks really scary for white, but it's not at all. Bishop e7. Controlling some key squares. This one attacking this pawn. H takes. Rook checks. Those of you that were wondering if black should have just taken, after bishop takes, H takes, rook takes, you lose the queen. You're basically screwed. You're going to lose both the b pawns for white, so the game's over. But after rook to d8, king h7, check, queen h6, takes, h takes. Now white's up a pawn, but I don't think it's really enough here to win yet. We're going to have to see how this works out. Rook d4. Fitting, of course, to take this pawn. And after pawn takes, rook takes. Rook to d7. Defending the rook and attacking the pawn. b5. Bishop. Rook d1. King comes up. Rook to a1. Now you're in for the long haul now. You can see this is going to take a while. Even with the same color bishops. Black doesn't ever dare trade, because after the b pawn takes, that c pawn is going to run. King f3, so the king's going to have to start coming up now, which usually means you're stuck in an endgame. Plus the fact we all know that kings are very powerful pieces in the endgame. King h7. Rook comes over, pick the other pawn. About a pawn and a quarter advantage according to the computer for white. Bishop comes back. King e4. Bishop a3. That one I'm having trouble figuring out. That bishop a3 is just a move I just can't wrap my head around. I don't know why he would do that. King d5. Here comes the white king. He's going to start coming around and start picking off these pawns here. and they're both on light squares. There was a threat prior to that pawn here, but that's just an idle threat. King to d5, rook c1, bishop d6. That stops the king from crossing this file to go after those pawns. Rook c8, rook's got to come back to defend. King e6, and all that maneuvering around now to defend his A and B pawn, black has allowed that white king to get way down the board. King g6, f3, he's taking his time. Rook, king d7, rook has to move back. King e6, rook c6. They're going to be moving around here for a while, so let's go through it. Pawn, rook checks king, rook c2, king e6, check again, king d5. He's going to go the other way now. Rook's got to stop the king from getting over. F4 to stop any intrusion from the black king to get in. King f7, it's going to come around the other way. G5, king g6, just to stop the advance of white's f pawn. King comes over, rook to e2 check, king comes up. Rook e4. Now it's showing that he's ganging up on white's b4 pawn. Bishop e5. Now it's switching around, getting up on the other pawn. Those of you that were wondering if bishop takes, king to e6, and to tell you the truth, black is doomed right here. Absolutely doomed. After bishop c1, rook f3, king f5. They're just maneuvering around now. Bishop takes, king c6, king takes, king d5, king f5. So those who are wondering what will happen after rook takes, bishop f8, bishop d2. There's no place for that rook to go. Check, king takes, takes, rook takes, and of course black is doomed. King to f5, bishop h6, rook takes, king c5, rook takes b3. And this is where they called it a draw. Black's up 2 pawns, but he can't make any progress. He can't defend. He can't come rook here to defend. So it is a draw, and that's the way it is. What would happen is after rook takes, or it's white's move, even if you played rook takes, bishop takes, and a bishop and 2 pawns, and a rook draws. And it's the right color bishop too, but it still draws. Anyway, folks, that's one of the games from round 10 of the current leg of the FIDE Grand Prix series from Tashkent. I hope you enjoyed it. I want you all to remember, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.